really appreciate you tuning in to see my presentation. I feel super honored to be able to still present for NASPA audiences, and it's really exciting as this is my first NASPA presentation as a student affairs professional. So I'm very excited to share not only a topic that I'm passionate about, but also in a field that I'm passionate about as well. Also, I want to give you a little introduction of who I am. So as you all know, my name is Sarahina Borgia. My pronouns are they, him. I'm a current hall director at Stephen F. Austin State University down in Nacogdoches, Texas. I'm currently working on getting my master's. I graduate this semester with a master's in student affairs and higher education from SFA. I got my bachelor's from Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida, and fell in love with student life there and decided to make the career switch from the arts to student development. So now that you guys know a little bit about me, I will go ahead and get started on our topic by first giving you a little bit of an outline of today's agenda. So first, we're going to be touching on some of the main concerns that LGBTQ plus students and community members might face in communities surrounding them, especially conservative communities. And then we're going to segue into some best practices by some universities in the United States that are already working on addressing how to best serve their LGBTQ plus population on campus, as well as in the community as well. And then we're going to open it up for some question and answers that I can hopefully help you guys start brainstorming, or if you guys have any resources that you'd like to share from your universities or what you think that you all are doing well in your departments to help support your LGBTQ plus students, that will be what we have time left for in the end. So moving on, some main concerns that this population might face. So some community and political implications of being LGBTQ within a conservative environment. One of the top two ones are the policy implementation that might occur, as well as healthcare availability for our students. So more so likely in a highly conservative area, LGBTQ plus individuals are going to find it more difficult to find healthcare that is suitable for their needs. And that could be as simple as OBGYN for trans individuals, or health clinics that are understanding of what implications of certain medications might have with people who are on testosterone or hormone replacement therapy. And so really being able to access healthcare professionals that are more knowledgeable on LGBTQ individuals specifically is harder to attain in a conservative environment, as well as healthcare professionals who are willing to aid individuals who identify on the LGBTQ plus spectrum. And so, for example, ways that universities can possibly implement support for that is diving deeper in how they can train their healthcare individuals who are on campus within the campus health clinic. There are plenty of trainings that are offered by the National LGBTQ Health Center that certify professionals on specific ways to implement positive healthcare for LGBTQ individuals and even trans students in particular, and address to like hormone replacement therapy or top surgery or bottom surgery for individuals who partake in those types of transitional sections of their lives. Another heavy implement within a conservative environment is the policy implementation, and this can be on any level. It can be local policy, it can be state policy, or it can even be federal policy that can affect how LGBTQ plus students are living their day-to-day lives. So for example, there is a policy that just got put in, a bill in Arizona earlier this month. It's in committee still, but it is highly considered to be going to the Senate floor. But it restricts healthcare for LGBTQ minors. So if a parent or a guardian decides that they would like to get their child proper healthcare to help them identify with how they identify, it would be considered child abuse, and they would go under they would be breaking laws that would ultimately risk them possibly losing their child just because they were trying to get them the proper health care to help them identify with who they identify as. Um, there are a few more laws that are specifically like that as well in Idaho as well as Texas. Thankfully, Texas um, tabled it and denied it from going past committee. Idaho is also projected to do that. But sadly, in this time, especially with COVID-19 happening currently, policies are less looked at right now because the attention is not necessarily on these, but more so on how to properly um, support COVID-19 impact and things along those lines. So these policies are kind of swooping in underline and kind of getting past committees and moving up the chain. Another way policy implementation can happen is on the university level with donors and alumni. Especially when your university resides in a more conservative environment, your donors and alumni are less likely to be supportive of the community. Not saying that all of them will be, but you are going to run into that pushback that donors and alumni won't want to contribute money if your university is taking action in certain areas, such as having a National Coming Out Day celebration, doing a drag show for your students, or having a pride parade during Pride months, and things along those lines can stir the pot with donors and alumni for certain universities. And it can be kind of hard to navigate how to properly nurture your relationship with your donors and alumni because they are just as important to your student body as your other students, but also making sure that you're still cultivating a safe and fair environment for your other student populations as well. And then you also have community pushback. And this is what heavily hits when your university is within a small town. And so uh, because with your university residing in a smaller location, your community is going to have much more of an interaction with your university, most likely, with university sponsored community events, and the community feels kind of like a part of the university family, even if they didn't go there or their students aren't going there. They still feel that connection to the university in some way, and that the university reflects their community back at them. And so if the university starts doing things that go against their own personal beliefs or structure, then you could kind of damage that relationship that you have with the community. So that's another element of navigating a balance of relationship, but also still having that support and growth for students. And then you also have university pushback. Not everybody in a university structure or demographic is going to have the same viewpoints or belief structures or ideas of how a university should move forward. And so understanding how to navigate that political atmosphere of really pushing as to how, as a university, we are here for the students, students first always, and not just student first always, but all students first always, and making sure that policy that's being implemented at the university level is fair and equal to all. And so these are the various implications that LGBTQ students can run, not just within a university stance, but also just in a community and life stance with laws and policies and university structures. And one of the ways that we can possibly help kind of push things in a positive direction with with universities and how we're structured and how we're supporting our students is with a term that I like to call tempered radicalism. So not everyone is too familiar with what tempered radicalism is, but it was in a book written by Marison and Scully back in the mid to late 90s. And basically they said in a business structure, in order to make proper change that's fair and equal to all, you can become almost a tempered radical. And so it's silently engaging in personal actions and confronting the discrimination and finding those alternatives to the conflicts, but by utilizing those small wins. So if you attack an issue full force with all of your might and just intently like go at it with all you have, you're more likely to upset your opposition, and they're more likely to come up in arms and go against what you're doing and they'll have possibly a little bit more numbers than you because you are just starting with what you're wanting to change. And so understanding how to implement those small, I apologize for that interruption, but announcing the small wins and understanding how that organizational change will influence the larger change as a collective action. And how you can do that is by appreciating those small wins. It can be very disheartening when you think you're not doing enough um, for your students, or you don't necessarily see the impact that these small wins are having. So if you implement and appreciate those small wins, you can really keep that momentum moving forward for the change that will ultimately come in the end. Next, you're going to want to build your relationships and your alliances for support. So by this, it means you need to start gathering your numbers. You need to find who and where you're going to be getting this support from. Maybe in other departments, maybe in the same department that you're currently working in, maybe even within the community, as such as within community members that find ways to participate within the university. And once you start building those relationships, you're also building that alliance for support that will help kind of push those larger movements once those small wins start building up. And then by the time all those small wins build up and you have these relationships and you have these alliances, you kind of have the numbers to really move into what the third step is keeping that momentum going up. And so you're going to have that urge, and that passion is going to keep going, and momentum is going to be going up. And then once you start really pushing, you can start participating in local and more authentic actions. So this can be super simple as recently, for example, SFA, before COVID-19 kind of interrupted things, there was a local community Pineywood Pride that happens at the end of March. And we were able to get university participation with that community event. And by doing so, we were planning to have Residential Life having a booth, as well as the Office of Multicultural Affairs. We're going to have a booth helping support and showing that the university is there for our local LGBTQ plus population. And so those are what those local and spontaneous authentic actions are, because your students are going to see that, and it might not be expected. It might be expected depending on who the student is. And but those are those authentic moments that show your support for them. Okay. So moving on to some best practices of what I've kind of witnessed as myself, also referencing the university that I currently work at. Stephen F. Austin State University resides in Nacogdoches. It's a very small town in Texas. It was one of the first towns founded in Texas. And so we are very keen on the term tempered radicalism and how we implement change to help our students feel more welcome and accepted. So for example, SFA currently has a safe bathroom initiative going on, which is we currently are converting any bathroom that we can to properly support any gender nonconforming individual on our campus, as well as always implementing whenever we build a new building on campus to have at least 1 to 2 bathrooms that will help service our LGBTQ plus population. We also, not too long ago, did a Pride Index with Campus Pride to kind of help assess where we were as a university in terms of our support for the LGBTQ plus population. And that's where we were able to help push our bathroom initiative with our university leaders and kind of help them realize that this was a service that we needed to provide for our students, and it was being asked for. We also have a chosen name initiative that our students can participate in if they so like, which is where it's super simple. They can go through their campus portal online, and they can apply to have their preferred and proper name on their rosters and on their MySFA. So that way, when professors or student affairs professionals approach them, they know the proper name to call them, and things along those lines. And then touching on University of Texas in Dallas, they are one of the universities in Texas that offer gender inclusive housing for LGBTQ plus populations. It's a very simple process to go through. There's no extra bells or whistles that students have to go. They don't have to necessarily self-identify outside of the application. All they have to do is once they renew their housing contract or submit a housing contract, they check a few extra boxes that say that they would like to opt in to gender inclusive housing. And that guarantees that they're not only participating in gender inclusive housing, but also only rooming with other individuals who have like-minded or similar viewpoints, and it can kind of create an extra safe environment for their students. University of Wisconsin has an initiative that brings together their Office of Multicultural Affairs and their Pride organization to help support people of color along the LGBTQ plus spectrum. What it does is it implements every semester 4 to 5 programs or workshops that students can participate in to help broaden their education on diversity within the LGBTQ plus population, as well as what that means to be a part of that spectrum on top of also being a person of color, which I find is really awesome for that university, because I think it does get overlooked sometimes because you have LGBTQ plus, but some people don't always think about being a person of color while also being a part of the LGBTQ plus population. And then I believe that wraps up what I have for best practices, which means I'm going to open it up for anybody who has any questions.
Great, thank you so much for the presentation. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to include them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the questions directly.
Any questions? No. If there are no questions, which I don't believe there are, I could be wrong.
Perfect. And if anything, feel free to leave your contact information in the chat, and we'll be able to follow up with any questions.
Yes, there's a chat. Oh, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
But if that's it and there are no questions, I want to say thank you so much for coming to my presentation and bearing with me through some hiccups. And I hope you all have a wonderful and safe rest of your day.
Great. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.